You ever sat in a conversation and suddenly feel like you are watching yourself from across the room, like you are an audience member in your own life? You can see yourself talking, laughing, nodding, but something feels disconnected, like there is a glass wall between you and everything happening around you. You are there, but you are also not really there. And the scariest part, you can't explain it to anyone because from the outside you look completely fine. Today, we are breaking down the psychology of people who feel like they are watching their life from a distance. The ones society tells to just be present. But science has a completely different explanation for what is actually going on. First, let's give this a name. What you just described is not random. It is not you being dramatic, and it definitely is not something you made up. Psychologists call it depersonalization. It is the feeling of being detached from yourself, like you are a robot going through motions. Like your life is a movie and you forgot you are supposed to the main character. There is a second layer too. Some people don't just feel detached from themselves, they feel detached from everything around them. The world looks flat. Color seems dull. Familiar places feel strange. Psychologists call this one derealization, and the two almost always show up together. These are not rare conditions. Studies suggest that roughly half of all people will experience at least one episode of depersonalization in their lifetime. It is one of the most common psychological experience almost nobody talks about. So if you have felt this way, you are not alone, not even close. So, what actually causes this? Here is what gets fascinating. Your brain has one job above everything else, not thinking, not feeling, not even keeping you happy. Its number one job is keeping you alive, and sometimes when life gets too overwhelming, too painful, or too frightening, your brain does something remarkable. It pulls you back. Psychologists call this the brain's emergency detachment response. When emotion gets too intense, the brain creates psychological distance between you and the experience, like hitting an internal dimmer switch. Everything goes quieter, everything goes a little further away, and suddenly you are watching instead of living. It is a protection mechanism. It is your brain saying this is too much right now. Let me turn the volume down so you can survive this moment. The problem is that sometimes the brain forgets to turn the volume back up. Stress and anxiety are the biggest triggers. Think about the most anxious period of your life, the constant overthinking, the racing thoughts, the feeling that something bad is always about to happen. When anxiety runs at the level for long enough, the brain gets exhausted, and no one way an exhausted, overstimulated brain copes is by checking out. Not fully, just enough to take the edge off. This is why people with chronic anxiety often report feeling disconnected. Not because they are mentally ill, not because something is seriously wrong, but because their brain has been running on emergency mode for so long that detachment became the default setting. And here is the cruel irony. When you notice the disconnection and start panicking about it, the anxiety spikes, which makes the detachment worse, which makes you more anxious, which makes the detachment worse again. It is a loop, and most people don't even know they are stuck in one. But anxiety is not the only door into the experience. Trauma is one of the biggest ones. When something happens that is too painful to fully process, the brain does not always file it always clearly. Sometimes it wraps the whole experience in distance. You remember what happened, but it feels like it happened to someone else. Like you are watching a scene from a movie instead of a memory from your own life. Psychologists call this trauma dissociation, and it is incredibly common in people who experience childhood neglect, emotional abuse, or any situation where their feelings were consistently dismissed or punished. If you grew up in a house where emotions were not safe, your brain learned to disconnect from them early, and that habit does not just apply to painful memories. Over time, it starts applying to everything: joy, love, excitement. All of it gets filtered through the same protective distance. Until one day you realize you can't remember the last time something felt fully real. There is another type of person who feels this way, and this one surprises people. High achiever, perfectionist, people who are constantly performing. When you spend years presenting a version of yourself to the world that is not fully authentic, something strange happens. You start to lose track of where the performance ends and the real person begins. You have been watching yourself from for so long that you forgot how to just exist. Psychologists call this self monitoring detachment. You became so good at observing yourself, managing yourself, editing yourself in real time that the observer and the person being observed split apart. These are the people who are impressive at everything, who seem confident and put together, but who go home at night and feel strangely hollow, like they spent all day being someone. And now they are not sure who is left when nobody is watching. Here's what this actually feels like from the inside. Because a lot of people experience this and never have the words for it. It feels like a lag, like there is a half second delay between what is happening and you actually registering it. Conversation feels slightly rehearsed even when they are not. Laughter comes out but does not feel connected to anything real inside. You look in the mirror and your face looks familiar but somehow foreign at the same time. Food tastes a little less, music hit a little less. Moments that should feel big, birthdays, achievements, good news arrive and you watch yourself react to them instead of actually feeling them. And the most frightening part is that you look completely normal to everyone around you. Nobody knows you because you are showing up, still functioning, still smiling at the right moments. But inside it feels like you are watching some of else do all of it. So, what does this do to a person over time? When you live at a distance from your own life long enough, something quietly shifts. You stop expecting to feel fully present. Distance become your normal, and because it feels normal, you stop questioning it, stop fighting it. Relationship starts to feel like performances. Achievements feel empathy because you never ever fully there for them. Life becomes a highlight reel you are watching instead of a story you are actually living. And the loneliest part, you can be surrounded by people who love you, people who are genuinely there for you, and still feel completely alone, not because they are failing you but because the glass wall is between you and everything including them. But here is what nobody tells you: distance is not permanent, it is not your personality, it is not who you are. It is your brain doing its best with what it was given. A brain that learned to protect you by pulling you back. A brain that got so good at creating distance from pain that it started creating distance from everything. And brains that learned something can unlearn it. Not overnight, not easily, but genuinely actually unlearn it. The first step is the most important one. Stop being scared of the feeling because the fear of depersonalization is almost always what makes it worse. When you feel yourself pulling away, instead of panicking, try getting curious. Ask, what is my brain trying to protect me from right now? That one question alone starts closing the distance. So, if this is you, hear this: you are not broken, you are not losing your mind, you are not watching your life from a distance because something is permanently wrong with you. You are watching from a distance because at some point distance felt safer than being fully inside your own experience. And your brain, which loves you in the only way a brain knows how, decided to give you that distance and keep on giving it. But you are allowed to come back now. You are allowed to feel things fully. You are allowed to be the main character again. not the audience, not the narrator, not the person watching from across the room, the one actually living it. And if this video felt uncomfortably familiar, subscribe because next time we are going into the psychology of people who feel everything too deeply. And I think you already know which video you need to watch next.